Breaking news. Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News desk.
And our producers in Baltimore say they saw a police officer shoot a man just moments ago. Here's the video from the scene. According to our team there, an officer shot that man you see on the stretcher. We're hearing conflicting reports on social scanners there, or I should say on the local police scanners and beyond. It is very early. Fox News cannot, frankly, confirm exactly what happened, despite the fact that our producers were there. But we have watched the scene getting more crowded by the minute as bystanders gather. A large police presence with police choppers overhead. More chaos in Baltimore exactly 1 week after we saw unrest turn into violent riots. Mike Tobin has the news live in Baltimore. Mike, what happened?
Well, Shep, we don't have to worry that much about confirmation because it happened right in front of our eyes. We saw a young black man running from a police officer, and one shot came out. We counted one shot and ran up on the scene and found that man on the ground. I couldn't get a look at his wound, but he looked to be in bad shape. Within about 10 minutes, that guy was hauled away on a stretcher. I did see on the street there a revolver laying on the sidewalk, like a six-shooter with a long, relatively long barrel on this particular handgun. Now, as far as this scene that has formed up here at North in Pennsylvania, which has been so much the epicenter of so much of the attention, you've got another police line forming up a little bit more haphazardly than they were throughout this process. You have a crowd. I would have expected a bigger crowd at this point, but there is a crowd forming up. There was an immediate crowd after the shooting, and if you look past this police line, you can see, I'd give that about 50 yards where another police line has formed up, and primarily it looks like what they're doing is preserving the crime scene. So you did have a gun on the scene. You have one individual who has been shot. He did not appear to be dead when they took him away in the ambulance, but he didn't look to be in good shape, Shepard.
Some quick questions, a series of them, Mike. Do we have any idea why the cop was chasing the guy?
No, it just happened. I'd give it about 2:45 when it happened. The first warning we got is the guy came running by the car.
Okay, so after he came running by the car, what did the cop do next? And describe the circumstances under which this running person went down.
I saw the guy running away. That would be the west direction up North Avenue here. I saw him running away, and I never saw the suspect or victim, choose the word you want, I never saw him turn and do anything aggressive. But I heard one shot come from the police officer, and then the suspect was down.
Did you hear the police officer say anything to him before firing that shot?
I did not hear the police officer say anything, Shep.
Did you hear the guy who was doing the running say anything, the guy who's now shot, or was he carrying anything that fell when he went down?
Well, there was a gun on the scene when it was all over, and it didn't look to be an officer's weapon. Again, it was a six-shooter with a long barrel. And keep in mind, I was inside of a car working on my notes to get ready for the next live shot, so I would have been prevented from hearing anything that wasn't really loud like a gunshot because I was inside the car with the windows rolled up.
Sure, it makes sense that you're in the same predicament so many people who are witnesses to events such as this are. But one more question. Were you able to observe whether this person who was doing the running was running away from the officer who did the shooting at the time?
Yeah, it looked pretty clearly that he was running away from the officer who fired.
Okay, and did any of our producers or other employees or freelancers or anyone who's there, did anyone get a better view of this than you did, or were you all about in the same predicament?
No, I was in the front seat, and some other people were in the back seat, so I probably would have had the best view of that, Shep.
I just wonder if at the time there were a lot of people on the street when this police officer pulled a weapon and, as you describe it firsthand, fires at a person who was running away from that police officer.
The street was moderately busy. I guess there's been a little bit more activity out here at North in Pennsylvania since all of the unrest started. And even though the curfew was lifted and started to go back to normal, it was still a bit more busy. There were some people in the area. If you look, it's right over there underneath that Metro PCS sign. And there were people sitting out on the stoops and kind of milling around. So there will be some other witnesses to this as the police go through their investigation, Shep.
Well, one thing, Mike, and help me with this, one thing that we've learned over time in covering matters like this is if you, a fleeing person, pose a significant risk, in other words, risk of violence to those around you or to police officers, then the officers can use deadly force. Otherwise, they cannot, right? Can you expand on that at all?
Well, and if you look at what we know from the scene, that there was a gun on the scene. So if you start to extrapolate, and I'd have to speculate a little bit about what was going on,
yeah, we wouldn't
but that
do that.
gun could present a lethal threat. So, yeah, so the gun would present a lethal threat, and the officer made the decision that he did.
Yeah, and we'll just have to find out over time what the circumstances surrounding this are. It's interesting that right here and on this busy street, this is one of the streets where we've been the whole time, right? I mean, north, that's the epicenter of it all.
Right, this is that is right at the epicenter, and that's why I was here getting ready to do a live shot for your show, as a matter of fact. He ran, I'd put him about 20 yards away from us.
And as it happens, there's now a gun on the ground, but we know an African-American male is running, a police officer is chasing, the officer pulls a weapon. According to witnesses on scene, our own Mike Tobin fires one shot. The African-American person is down, taken, Mike Tobin reports, within 10 minutes on a stretcher and into an ambulance. And according to the reporting of Mike Tobin, not doing so great, though we don't have anything official from authorities. So we've been witness to something that's been unfolding in Baltimore, and when we have more to it, we'll bring it to you. For the moment, though, I can tell you that the president is speaking and has been speaking on this matter in Baltimore. So let's listen to the president. Listen.
And they just don't have the same kinds of chances that somebody like me had. They're just as talented as me, just as smart. They don't get a chance. And because everyone has a part to play in this process, we brought everybody together. We brought business leaders and faith leaders, mayors, philanthropists, educators, entrepreneurs, athletes, musicians, actors, all united around the simple idea of giving all our young people the tools they need to achieve their full potential. And we were determined not to just do a feel-good exercise, to write a report that nobody would read, you know, to do some announcement, and then once the TV cameras had gone away and, you know, there weren't protests or riots, then somehow we went back to business as usual. We wanted something sustained. And for more than a year, we've been working with experts to identify some of the key milestones that matter most in every young person's life, from whether they enter school ready to learn, to whether they graduate ready for a career. Are they getting suspended in school? Can we intervene there? Are they in danger of falling into the criminal justice system? Can we catch them before they do? Key indicators that we know will make a difference. If a child's reading by the third grade at grade level, we know they've got a chance of doing better. If they aren't involved with the criminal justice system and aren't suspended while they're in school, we know they've got a chance of doing better. So there's certain things that we knew would make a difference. And we've looked at which programs and policies actually work in intervening at those key periods. Early childhood education works. Job apprenticeship programs work. Certain mentoring programs work. And we've identified which strategies make a difference in the lives of young people, like mentoring or violence prevention and intervention.
So the president is acknowledging what is as clear as the nose on your face. There are bigger problems in Baltimore that have been discussed on news channels over the last week. These are problems that are decades in the making. They're complicated because people have tried to solve them before, but they certainly need attention lest we lose a generation. The president working on that matter as breaking news falls into our laps there on North at Penn, right in the epicenter of everything that's been happening in Baltimore over the past week or more. And now our own news crews there witness, as it's been described to us, I wasn't there, I can tell you what our reporters just reported, and that is that this man who is now on a stretcher was running down the street. Police were running after him. Our people didn't hear whether there was something said. What they did see was one shot fired, that man down. A police officer shot this person apparently, and then Mike Tobin saw a gun on scene. We do not know the condition of the person who's been shot. Mercedes Colwin, police are authorized to use deadly force?
Sure.
Under what circumstances?
When they're in imminent fear of deadly force being used upon them or for public safety. If someone's running down the street, there's already been gun. We don't know if it's been attributed to this gentleman who was shot, but if that gun had anything to do with that individual who's running away from the cops and he's got the gun in his hand, and even if he tosses it, the cops can use deadly force.
So if police have said, stop, I'm a cop, freeze,
Right.
drop your weapon, and instead the person runs with weapon in hand, the cop can use deadly force.
Absolutely, because weapon in hand, and then he may have even tossed it. I mean, that's a scenario that we can actually foresee this happening.
Of course, we can't say with certainty any more than, as far as I know, anybody else with whom we've spoken can say. There's an investigation that has to take place here.
Sure.
But it is quite something that right in the middle of all this media chaos, right in the spot where all this stuff was going down, an officer shoots, a police officer shoots a black guy, and all of a sudden he's in the back of an ambulance.
And let's just hope that he survives so that the investigation can be done. This individual not shot in an area where he actually loses his life. There's going to be someone who alive. It looks like he is. I mean, it looks like from the stretcher we can see that.
Oh my God. The last thing you need is any more loss of life in that community. Been covering stuff like this for a long time. It's kind of unusual for the news crews covering something that's been ongoing.
Sure.
All of a sudden, there you're witness to some guy getting gunned down in the street.
I mean, that's
and passing
so weird.
absolutely no judgment on whether things were right or wrong. Just being a witness to such a thing is a little bit weird.
But the cops are in that community alone. They are on high alert.
They have to be.
It's very sensitive. Their lives can be lost in a nanosecond. There's lots of tension. People are armed, obviously armed. This individual is armed. So there's a lot of fear that there's going to be some reprisals against the police.
We've talked with Mike Tobin, who was working on a script in a news vehicle. Our correspondent Leland Vittert now has another witness to this. Leland, what you got?
Shep, things have gone back to what was normal, this big police line. Go ahead and take a look here. Once again, forming up at Pennsylvania and North, guarding what is the crime scene now. And Tanya saw the whole thing. Tiffany saw the whole thing. I'm going to get Gregory to go back to the Metro PCS store where the police are guarding. So it all started at the Metro PCS, Tiffany.
It actually started maybe a few houses down from that because the boy was sitting on the steps right there by the check cashing.
And what was he doing when he was sitting on the steps?
He was just sitting on the steps. There were some other dudes. They were talking from what I could see, smoking cigarettes, things like that.
Young man?
Yes, young man, maybe like 18, 19.
All right, and what happened?
Well, the police came and pulled up right here in front of Jackson Hewitt. The officer got out the passenger side and proceeded to chase the boy because as soon as he saw the police, he started running.
Was there any words exchanged?
No, the police just got out the car and started chasing the boy. And then he ran down toward the Metro PCS. The officer got in the middle of the street and shot that boy in his back, in my face. That's when,
How close were you when the gunshot happened?
I was right there at the check cashing.
So 20, 30 feet.
Right there. But the officer was in the middle of the street. As the boy was running up, he straight boom.
Okay.
And that's
was
when
the boy on the ground,
yes,
or was
he hit the ground face down. Okay, and that's when everybody got upset because you know what we're dealing with right now.
All the residents here.
Yes, everybody that was outside was upset. They started macing the crowd. We had to come this way because they were macing us.
So the police then started spraying the crowd with mace.
Yes, a lot of people got hit. Then they told us.
Including you?
Yeah, I got hit in the middle of the street with the mace because as everybody was coming this way, people were being maced. The police were coming down. They were pushing us from over here. You got aggressive officers with their nightsticks out, intimidating, cussing us out, and then they sprayed the crowd while they're cussing us out.
Is this when you saw this happen? What was your thought process? Were you scared? Did you think there was going to be more shooting? What did you think?
In my mind, it was here we go again. First thought.
Hey, Leland, if she saw him sitting on the steps there, did she see if he had a weapon?
Now we're got to start all over again from scratch.
And this is an important question that Shepard just brought up. When you saw this young man sitting on the steps, you have any idea if he had a weapon on him? Did you ever see anything?
No, I sure didn't. Because when that boy got up...
Could you see both of his hands?
Yes. When he got up, I didn't see him throw anything. I saw his arms do like this. In a running motion.
So you never saw a weapon?
All I saw was a police weapon.
Leland, let me end. Commander at the scene now reports that he confirms it was a shooting, that the man had a gun, that police tried to arrest him, that it fell and went off, according to the commander on scene.
It was a one stop, and then you heard the boom, and that boy hit the ground.
There's a commander here at the scene who's just told us that there was the young man who was killed had a weapon. And that he died. And that he was running with the weapon.
Boy ain't had no weapon, sir. I was right there. He was sitting there with his friends, and the police came up there and killed that boy like that.
You're sure that you didn't see anything?
No, I did not see a weapon. I saw his hands go in a running motion.
So what
he didn't throw anything.
What do you think about the fact that the police are now saying that he had a weapon?
This is what they're going to say.
So you don't believe them?
I don't. Not when I sat there and watched it with my own eyes.
And do you think other people around here will believe the police, or are they going to?
No. I'm telling you right now, they don't care about these police.
They don't care what the police say?
They don't care what they say because they lying. They lying. They shot that boy for no
Tiffany,
reason.
I want to ask you this. It's 3:15 right now.
Yes.
We have the police lined up in their riot formations, as you can see, and there's a big crowd gathering. This is ground zero. This is where the CVS burned. Are we going to have a repeat of the kind of violence we had before?
Sir, on my honest opinion, yes, I do think so, because too many people were out here to watch that Caucasian police officer shoot that young black boy. This is the second one. We just came from off of Freddie Gray.
And there's nothing the police can say in your mind that would make it so it was justified?
Nothing. Not when I was standing here, because I was out here for about a half an hour before, this all happened anyway. So there is nothing that they can say in my eyes that would justify.
And the young man wasn't doing anything? He wasn't
No,
yelling?
like I said, he was sitting there with his friends. They were talking. One had a cigarette, one had a black and mild. They were just sitting there.
They were just sitting there. Shepard, it's important to understand, obviously, in times like this, that eyewitnesses have a lot of different recollections and a lot of different feelings. And I want to go through it once again with Tiffany in terms of exactly how close you were and why all of a sudden did you start paying attention to this?
Well, I know because this is kind of a known area for a lot of different trafficking.
Like what?
I want to say it.
So
okay?
there's a lot of drugs that go on here.
I didn't say drugs. I know that you can get hair from the beauty supply store at the beauty supply store. So there's a lot of traffic because everybody can get a lot of things right here. Before CVS was gone, the library.
Does it surprise? A lot of police officers tell us that this is a very high drug, high crime area. Is that true, you think?
Sir, this is Baltimore City. What area can you go in Baltimore City that don't have a lot of drugs around it? And let's be completely
all right.
honest.
Well, that's fair. Okay, so you were here, and then all of a sudden you started paying attention. And why do you think the police are saying that he had a gun if you say he didn't?
To cover their own ASS.
Okay, and Gregory, go ahead and take a look around. Shepard, it seems as though the police have really tried to congregate around and form their own line, a ring, if you will, around where this happened. And it's the same riot line almost that we saw before, right on Pennsylvania Avenue there. The fire trucks are gone, and also the ambulances are gone as well. I'm wondering if you have any more questions for Tiffany.
Well, I actually want to, there's more than one witness here. The police are protecting the crime scene there because that's an ongoing crime scene, I would guess. Somebody's been shot. Our Mike Tobin also witnessed this, and Mike is back with us. Mike, you said, this witness says she saw the boy, as she calls him, and that he took off running and there was no weapon, but you saw a weapon.
Yeah, I saw a weapon on the ground. And, I was in a car with people, and we have security staff while we're covering this story. And one of my security guards says that he saw the guy reaching for the front of his pants, if you will. What I saw is not inconsistent with that. I mean, his arms were toward the front of him. I can't really specifically identify the action as reaching for a weapon that would have been stuffed in the front of his pants, but I definitely saw a gun laying on the sidewalk with an officer standing over. And in fact, if you go back with it, we fed it in a bunch of video to you guys in a big rush. So if you go back through the raw video, the picture of that gun is there. It's a 6-shooter with a long barrel, looks a little old and beat up.
It's on screen
and it's laying
right
on
now.
the ground underneath the officership. Yeah, so there's a weapon on the scene.
And I'm guessing that this officer in this, we have taken a frame grab, an officer or somebody, maybe an officer standing over it. It looks in an effort to keep anybody else from getting. Describe to us why this officer's standing over this weapon.
Well, in essence, to preserve the crime scene, to use a formal term, but they don't want anybody messing with the evidence that's on the scene. Obviously, this is going to be a key piece of evidence. So he's going to stand there and try to keep anyone from picking it up, getting fingerprints, moving it, taking it from the scene. So he just stood there and guarded the crime scene to the extent he could. You're going to have a contaminated crime scene because people rushed up there and they stood around the suspect and or victim who was laying on the ground. and they shouted at the police officer. There was one police officer on the scene who looked like he was trying to render some sort of aid. Really what it looked like to me is he was just sort of propping his shoulder up, and the guy was kind of half in, half out. He didn't look to be in good shape at all, Shep.
Mercedes Cohen, lawyer on the scene, on set with us now. That gun there, you saw people throwing plastic bottles or something at the officer trying to fend him back. But they'll now test that weapon.
Undoubtedly. They're going to look for those fingerprints. They want to know who was the last person who handled that gun. And presumably it was the kid who the cops shot at. But we really don't know how old that person is. But we do know Mike Tobin says that, the security guard saw reaching for the weapon. I mean, it's kind of frankly, we're in a very awkward position here. Sure.
Our people are witness to something. We are speaking live with another witness. And frankly, they're telling two completely different stories, something that is not unusual at all for police officers. The witnesses to one crime, everybody with the presumption of honesty in advance, but you just see different things in the middle of a situation that is outside your norm.
Well, that young woman is looking at it from her prism. Her prism is like the police are the enemy. They're the ones that are attacking us. We're prey to them. Look, they're going to lie about it. This kid didn't have. We don't even know how old he is, but this individual didn't have a gun, and he's running away from the police, and he was shot down by the police. Like, this is her narrative. This is what she truly believes. But here's someone or a colleague who's saying, wait a minute, we saw a gun. Here's a police officer trying to secure the crime scene. So obviously there was a gun in place. There's another witness that's going to say, no, I saw him reaching for his waistband, and presumably it was for that gun. There was a shooting. I mean, all these things will come to bear. Based on those, you need some independent evidence. Fingerprints on that gun are going to be critical.
Hey, Mike, you said you have some security folks there who saw the reach for the weapon. Did anybody see this or saw the reach for the waistband? Did anybody see this weapon drop, or did you just see it in the street? Because the commander on the scene confirms there was a shooting, that the man had a gun. Police tried to arrest him, and quoting here, it fell and went off, says the incident commander.
I only counted one gunshot. That's what I heard. And I was inside of a vehicle with the windows rolled up, and also in between me and the action was a row of parked cars. So you had, if you look back at the street, it's hard to tell right now. That's west down North Avenue, and right at the Metro PCS. We were sitting, in fact, you can still see our car now surrounded by police. That's the black SUV. So we're looking across the street, and people were sitting on the stoop, sort of as those people are there. And we saw him kind of flash through the center of the street, run in between the cars. The police officer was in pursuit, and the police officer's weapon came out. I counted one gunshot. I did not hear a secondary gunshot, Shep.
So
I can't tell you that I heard it anyway.
Yeah. So here's what we have. We have a young woman who says she saw a guy. They keep using the word kid. I have no idea how old this person is. I don't know whether this person is a victim. I don't know whether this person is a suspect. I don't have enough information. So we'll just say the person who was shot. The person who was shot is on a porch hanging out with some friends, according to this first witness. The person starts running up North Avenue, right there in the middle of all of this, is being chased by officers, and as that woman puts it, they just shot him in the street. He fell down. Now, Mike Tobin is in his news car and sees the guy coming up the street, hears one shot, sees the guy fall. Sees another gun on scene over which police stand to try to keep it, according to Mike Tobin, from becoming in any way contaminated in the crime scene. And then we have a commander from the police department who says that the person who was doing the running and was shot dropped that weapon. When he dropped that weapon, it went off. That after that, he was shot by a pursuing officer, and that now, under all circumstances, that person has been taken to a hospital. Here we have the day-to-day, every day of your life situation for homicide investigators and beyond, people who are trying to get stories from the public. Baltimore police now. The reports of a man being shot at North in Pennsylvania are not true. Officers have arrested a man for a handgun at the location. Quoting again, the reports of a man being shot at North and Pennsylvania Avenue are not true. Officers have arrested a man for a handgun at the location. Mike Tobin?
Well, I heard one shot go off, Shep. I saw a guy down who looked like he was in bad shape. I could not see a wound. The people on the scene are saying here that he was shot in the back, and that would be consistent with the fact that he was running away from the police officers.
See any blood on the street?
Did I see him get hit? I did not see any blood on the street.
You know what I wonder? What I wonder is if everybody involved here, and no knocks on anybody, this is playing out live in front of us. We can't very well ignore it when it happens when our people are standing right there. But it sounds to me like it's altogether possible that the gun fell, the gun went off. When it did go off, the guy spread eagle on the ground.
Sure.
He's hurt. He's at least fallen on pavement. He needs to go to the hospital. So is it possible that it was his weapon that went off? The police never even fired a shot. That the woman who thought she saw a cop gun a boy down. That Mike Tobin, who thought that everybody who was there was wrong about all of it.
Could be, absolutely.
Welcome to witnessing things.
Exactly. But that's what happens, and that's why these jurors sit back and what makes the most reasonable sense? What makes the most sense? You are surrounded by all these individuals. You're flanked by officers. No one's going to be executing anyone. No one's going to sit there and say, I'm going to shoot someone down.
Can anybody working on that? They're working on that, obviously. Go on. Keep going.
No, I mean, so that's really the bottom line is the jurors are going to, even the investigators are going to shift through this and say, what makes the most reasonable sense? That there was an arrest, that gun was discharged, that individual is down on the ground. He was part of being processed for the arrest. That's the reason why I was there. And this young woman who just was interviewed before by Leland, that's in her mind. She truly believed he was just gunned down.
Again, or the report from Baltimore police, the reports of a man being shot at North and Pennsylvania Avenue are not true. Officers have arrested a man for a handgun at the location. We have a number of people there. I know they're off trying to get information from officers. I've known Mike Tobin a long time. And one thing I assure you is Mike Tobin would never say something that he thinks to be untrue.
Exactly.
I've worked with him long enough, worked with all kinds of people. Mike Tobin would never, ever do that. I'd bet my life on it.
Absolutely.
But Mike Tobin, who is a seasoned correspondent who spent many years covering wars in the Middle East and is tough as nails, believes to the core of his being that he witnessed an officer shoot a man and then that man drop his gun. Or he would not have reported it on this, I'm certain. That woman who was interviewed a minute ago, I've been interviewing people a long time. You saw how convinced she was. She wasn't a woman spinning a tale.
She was crying. She was literally physically crying. She had a visceral reaction to what she believed she had seen.
And the police are saying, what I believe police are saying is, in fact, I know what they're saying is, that a weapon went off, the one being carried by the person they were pursuing, that when that weapon went off, everybody came to conclusions. But actually what happened is the man who was carrying the weapon went down to the pavement. 10 minutes later, they took that man to the hospital.
Right.
10 minutes later, according to the reporting of Mike Tobin, Baltimore police say reports of a man being shot at North in Pennsylvania are not true. Again, this is crossing on national wires right now. The reason they're saying this is because we're alone on this.
Sure.
Our people happened to be right there when this incident, whatever it turns out to be, happened. Leland Vittert is in the crowd now. Leland? Leland Vittert, are you there?
Please give him some space and
I am, Shepard. We're live on television right now. I have an officer saying that no one was shot.
Nobody was shot.
How are you sure about that?
Because we have no shooting victim right now.
So there's no gunshot wounds?
There's no gunshot wounds reported at this time, no.
Why do witnesses say there was a gunshot wound?
I think it was just a misperception in the community that stemmed out. So, and we will have our PIO piece, talk to you guys and brief you in 1 second. I just want to make sure the community understands because they're upset that nobody was shot. Okay?
Are you worried about how big this crowd's getting?
Stop it.
No,
Ooh.
we're not. We're fine.
I didn't mean
right
for
now.
that to be on
All
TV.
right?
Sorry.
Thanks.
I just mean come on back to set now. It sounds to me like what's happened is we screwed up. What it sounds like. I can tell you one thing. Mike Tobin would never. I've been through this. Mike Tobin thought he saw somebody get shot, and there was a gun, and there was a patient on a stretcher, and there was a woman who said she saw the cops gun him down, and there's going to be violence and all the rest of that. And what we have is nothing. And the truth is, according to police, there is no gunshot victim. The person who fell in the street there is being taken to hospital because the person, I assume, went down on the street after dropping the weapon. These are not normal environs to most people. Places where there are transactions on the street, as the woman put it. That's not how everybody lives every moment of every day. That's not how Mike Tobin lives, and that's not how Leland Vittert lives, and that's not how our security guard lives. But from everything we've learned from that scene over the past weeks, that's part of life there, and that's part of the problem there. And a bunch of people who were trained at this sort of thing saw it, and it wasn't real. And now something has been created there that is wrong and unnecessary. We were wrong. Our people on scene were wrong. Theirs was an error that was honest and straightforward. And our duty as journalists is not to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we are duty bound to correct them immediately and as clearly as possible. So I'm now in correction mode, and we apparently were wrong. Unless there's new information that comes forward, all the information now points to there was a guy running down the street. Guy had a gun, according to police. Gun fell in the street. Gun went off. Guy was taken into custody. He complained that he was injured or something. They put him in an ambulance. And out of an abundance of caution, the police are now telling us they took him to the hospital. Nobody has been shot. No police officer has pulled the trigger. And on behalf of Mike Tobin and the rest of our crew there and the rest of us at Fox News, I am very sorry for the error and glad we were able to correct it quickly. The news continues after this. Well, still hard to imagine that what just happened here on live television just happened here on live television. Our reporter on scene thinks he sees somebody get shot right there in the middle of all the chaos that did exist in Baltimore. As it turned out, nobody was shot. The latest information from police is a man was approached and the man ran from police while carrying a weapon. As the man ran, the man fell, or his weapon dropped, or something that's still in the investigation process. A gun went off. Police say the gun that went off was the gun that was being carried by the man who was running. You saw police standing over that weapon. The man who was being pursued and presumably had the weapon has now been taken to a hospital out of an abundance of caution, and police tell us that there are no shooting victims. For the errors that we made here, we are deeply sorry.